In a world where the limits of the human body are pushed further every day, few dared to go as far as Daniele Seccarecci, the man who turned his own physique into a living masterpiece, defying what seemed possible. His journey, filled with triumphs and extreme sacrifices, led him to achieve feats no one thought imaginable, but it also exposed the devastating cost of chasing perfection. How did someone who seemed unstoppable fall so soon, leaving behind a story that is both an inspiration and a cautionary tale? Daniele Seccarecci was born in the picturesque city of Livorno, nestled along the serene waters of the Tuscan coast, in a modest home where grand dreams seemed like distant fantasies. From a young age, he had an insatiable curiosity about the human body, a fascination with strength and perseverance that set him apart from other boys his age. While most kids ran through the fields or played simple games, Daniele was captivated by watching sports competitions on television, especially those featuring men with incredible physiques, living sculptures that defied the imaginable. This fascination grew with him, and by his teenage years, it was impossible to ignore. Daniele wasn't an ordinary boy. There was something about his personality that drew attention. His determination was evident in everything he did. At 15, he stepped into a gym for the first time. The smell of iron, the sound of heavy bars hitting the floor, and the sweat of the gym-goers gave him a sense of purpose, as if he had finally found where he belonged. It didn't take long for him to start transforming his body, which quickly responded to the intense training and relentless discipline he imposed on himself. The first few months were tough. His muscles ached, the workouts seemed endless, and his family's financial struggles made it hard to access the right equipment and supplements. But to Daniele, these were just obstacles to overcome. He improvised weights with whatever he could find, got creative with exercises, and slowly but surely, sculpted his body with unwavering dedication. To him, there were no shortcuts, only hard work and persistence. Over time, the results began to show. The transformation was undeniable, not just in his physique, but in the confidence he radiated. His friends started to notice, and people around him began to draw inspiration from his commitment. Livorno began to feel too small for his ambition. Daniele wanted more. He wanted to compete, to prove he could stand out in a sport that demanded so much from both body and mind. His first competition wasn't long in coming. He stepped onto the stage with nerves, but also with a magnetic presence. His muscles, now well-defined and impressive in size, reflected every drop of sweat and sacrifice that had brought him there. The audience cheered, and the judges took notice. Even though he didn't win, that moment marked the beginning of something extraordinary. Daniele realized the stage was where he felt most alive, where his passion took shape and his determination became art. From there, his career began to gain momentum. Daniele entered larger competitions, faced more experienced opponents, and stood out with a physique that seemed to defy the laws of nature. His routine was relentless. He woke up before sunrise, followed meticulously planned meals, trained with superhuman intensity, and studied everything he could about nutrition and physiology. To him, knowledge was as essential as physical strength. The more he understood his body, the further he could push its limits. But the path to greatness wasn't only paved with victories. There were also pain, challenges, and doubts. He faced injuries, extreme fatigue, and constant pressure to improve. His personal life took a backseat. Friends drifted away, relationships were set aside, and Daniele often found himself alone with his obsession. Yet, he accepted it all as the price of pursuing his dreams. He wasn't looking for a common life. He wanted to be extraordinary. The peak of his journey came in 2010, when Daniele Seccarecci was inducted into the Guinness World Records as the heaviest competitive bodybuilder, weighing an astonishing 298 pounds of pure muscle. The news spread worldwide, and he became an instant legend. In photos, Daniele flashed a confident smile, as his muscles bulged like they were carved from stone. The achievement was a celebration of years of hard work, but also a reminder of everything he had sacrificed to get there. While the world applauded, Daniele knew that success came with an invisible weight. The pressure to maintain that level of excellence was immense, and the sport demanded more and more from his body. He continued to train tirelessly, compete in international events, and inspire aspiring athletes who saw him as a living example of what could be achieved through focus and determination. Behind the scenes, however, there was a darker side to this story. Daniele faced the natural limits of the human body and sought ways to overcome them. The use of anabolic steroids, common in professional bodybuilding, became part of his regimen. He was aware of the risks, but to him, the idea of not reaching perfection was more terrifying than any consequence. The steroids gave him the boost he needed to maintain his extraordinary physique, but they also planted seeds of concern in his mind. Even so, Daniele never lost his charisma. Off stage, he was described as a generous and approachable man, always willing to share advice and encourage those who dreamed of following in his footsteps. He was a giant, but with a kind soul, someone who understood the cost of greatness and wanted to help others find their own paths. At that point, Daniele seemed to be living a tale of victory, but it also carried a quiet unease. He wasn't just a man chasing the impossible. He was someone living with the knowledge that greatness always comes with a price. While the world saw him as a hero, Daniele knew his journey was as much about breaking barriers as it was about facing the consequences of the choices that had brought him there. He was living proof that grand dreams are possible, but never without sacrifices. To the world, Daniele Seccarecci was an unstoppable force, a man who had achieved the unimaginable with his colossal physique and commanding presence on stage. But behind the spotlight and the glory, there was a reality few could see. That body, his greatest accomplishment and tool, was also a battlefield, a place where tough decisions, extreme sacrifices, and inevitable consequences waged a constant war. Daniele understood that bodybuilding was a sport of limits, and he was determined to surpass every one of them, no matter the cost. As the years went on, Daniele's routine became more intense than ever. His training, already grueling, reached levels that seemed superhuman. He spent countless hours in the gym, pushing every muscle to its breaking point, striving not just to maintain his physique, but to outdo himself every single day. His diet was no longer just strict, it was a science. Every gram of protein, carb, and fat was measured with precision. But along with this relentless pursuit of physical perfection came a darker side, the continuous use of substances that promised rapid results but carried dangerous risks. Daniele wasn't naive. He knew the dangers. The world of bodybuilding was filled with stories of athletes who had succumbed to the effects of anabolic steroids, diuretics, and other performance-enhancing drugs. He understood that every dose was a gamble, a wager against time, but the pressure to stay on top was overwhelming. Fans expected more, sponsors demanded more, and above all, Daniele couldn't bear the thought of being anything less than extraordinary. The warning signs came gradually, like distant thunder before a storm. At first, it was just a deep fatigue, then lingering aches that wouldn't go away. His blood pressure, which he monitored regularly, started showing troubling numbers, but he brushed it off, focused on his next competition. His body was sending clear signals that it was reaching its limit, but Daniele, driven by a mix of ambition and denial, pushed forward, convinced he could handle whatever came his way. On stage, he was still a giant. Every pose he struck drew roaring applause from the crowd. Every victory another step toward immortality in the world of bodybuilding. But behind the scenes, those closest to him began noticing a change. Daniele, once full of energy and always ready for a lively conversation, seemed more withdrawn, almost reflective. He knew deep down that the path he had chosen was taking a toll, and while he tried to hide his concerns, the emotional weight of his decisions was beginning to show. Despite everything, Daniele's generous spirit remained intact. He continued to inspire young athletes, sharing tips and encouraging them to chase their dreams. His love for the sport was genuine, and he wanted others to feel the same joy he felt when he first stepped onto a stage. But internally, Daniele was fighting a different battle, one against time and the consequences of years of sacrifice. He was determined to keep going, but the quiet, almost imperceptible doubt began to creep in, asking if it was all truly worth it. In 2013, Daniele was preparing for another competitive season. He was as focused as ever, but something felt different that year. His body wasn't responding the same way. The workouts were more exhausting, and recovery came slower. Still, he pressed on, determined to prove to himself and the world that he could still compete at the highest level. But as he pushed through his preparation, the unexpected happened. One morning, while getting ready for another day of training, Daniele felt a sharp pain in his chest. He tried to ignore it, thinking it was just another pain he had learned to live with. But this time was different. Just hours later, Daniele suffered a massive heart attack. At 33 years old, the giant fell. His death shocked not only his family and friends, but the entire bodybuilding community. The world had lost one of its greatest icons, and the news spread quickly, accompanied by speculation about the cause of his death. Doctors confirmed that years of steroid use and extreme physical stress had played a major role. But to those who knew him, Daniele was far more than the choices that led to this tragic end. His death was a wake-up call, a moment of reckoning for the bodybuilding world, where the pursuit of physical perfection often overshadowed concerns for health. Daniele's story became not just an inspiration, but a stark reminder of the risks involved. He was an example of determination and passion, but also a testament to how the relentless drive for excellence can lead to decisions with heavy consequences. For many, his legacy was both a beacon of aspiration and a cautionary tale. Yet, the true essence of Daniele Seccarecci wasn't just in the choices that brought him to the top or those that led to his untimely end. It was in his courage to dream big, his strength to overcome obstacles, and his unwavering passion for what he loved. He was a man who lived intensely, who pushed past every barrier, and who, even in his struggles, continued to inspire those around him. Daniele's story is one of ambition, sacrifice, and humanity. He was a giant in every sense of the word, not just because of his towering physique, but because of his unbreakable will to chase his dreams, no matter the odds. His legacy is a mix of inspiration and caution, a reminder that greatness often comes with difficult choices, and that even in the toughest moments, there's beauty to be found in the fight. Daniele Seccarecci lived as few do, and while his journey was brief, it remains a testament to passion and perseverance.